Hi, my name is Angie Dyer, and I'm a trainer with the Minnesota Organization on Fetal Alcohol Syndrome, or MOFAS. The mission of MOFAS is to eliminate disability caused by alcohol consumption during pregnancy, and to improve the quality of life for those living with fetal alcohol spectrum disorders throughout Minnesota. The vision of MOFAS is a world in which women do not drink alcohol during pregnancy, and people living with fetal alcohol spectrum disorders are identified, supported, and valued. Today, I'd like to discuss utilizing person-first language as it relates to individuals who may have a disability, including persons with an FASD. It is my hope that this information motivates you to begin a transition to use person-first language every day in your respective professions. The difference between the right word and the almost right word is the difference between lightning and the lightning bug. By the end of this tutorial, you will be able to define person-first language, examine the barriers of person-first language, explore the importance of using person-first language, and finally discover guidelines for using person-first language in everyday use. This first section covers some important information about disabilities in general. It also addresses changes to language in the special education system here in Minnesota. The information illustrates Minnesota's intent to embrace person-first language and can be applied and may be useful in many other professions as well. So why is this an important topic? First, people with disabilities are the largest minority group and the most inclusive. Second, people with disabilities are also the most discriminated against. In 2011, Minnesota legislation was amended to read "Child with a Disability" and includes the following individuals listed on this slide. More information can be found through the link on this page, as well as at the end of the presentation. These are some examples of what Minnesota has come to a consensus on for terminology. Again, this was specific to special education, but persons with disabilities cross paths with many other professions and service providers. Here are some examples of what stayed the same. Now, let's investigate person-first language. First, you'll need to know how to walk the walk. What is person-first language? A disability is first and foremost a medical diagnosis. And when we define people by their diagnosis, we begin to devalue them as individuals. Person-first language is always speaking about a person by putting the person's name, or a person with, or an individual with first, before including any mention of difficulties, disability, or a diagnosis that a person may have. Equally important is using the correct terminology of the person's disability or diagnosis. For instance, in Minnesota, it is recommended to say autism spectrum disorder versus autism. The same line of thinking is what we recommend at MOFAS. It is advised to say fetal alcohol spectrum disorders instead of FAS or fetal alcohol syndrome. This slide addresses the common barriers to using person-first language. For example, it takes longer to say. It also takes longer to write, and it takes more space. People trained in a medical model, including physicians and treatment providers, are not typically trained in using person-first language. And finally, some people say it's just a matter of semantics. So why should we use person-first language? Well, research shows that language is powerful. It's not just a matter of semantics. It shapes and influences our attitudes, beliefs, perceptions, and behaviors. Ignorance and discrimination can prevent people with disabilities from achieving integration and independence in society. It also avoids perpetuating old stereotypes. People with disabilities aren't helpless or victims, and we shouldn't view or describe them as such. This would convey the notion that the person is their disability, disease, or disorder. And finally, it models appropriate language. Respect starts with language, so it is especially important for professionals and people in leadership positions to portray people with disabilities realistically and respectfully. So, even though it takes more time and it probably is more words to say or write, utilizing person-first language identifies the person as the individual with an illness, disability, or other issue. So it shifts our focus from the disability and what is wrong with the person to the person themselves. It also identifies strengths and abilities. It helps us see the person as coping with a disability rather than being thought of only in terms of their disability. So, for an example, an individual with strengths and abilities who has an FASD, or who is homeless, or who has alcoholism. Now I'd like to review some guidelines for talking to or about people with a disability. This slide shows some examples of guidelines. Whenever possible, it's important to try and use the person's name. So for example, non-person first language would be fetal alcohol kids. Person first language would be children with an FASD, or if you know the children's names, you would insert them first. As professionals, it is our responsibility to strive to do better in our professions. Therefore, I challenge all of us to use respectful and proper language in everyday discussions, to eliminate the word handicap from our vernacular, to shift our attitudinal barriers about using person-first language, to model person-first language and proper terminology at every opportunity, and this may include presentations or trainings, professional writing, as well as email and casual conversations. It's also beneficial to ask friends and colleagues to use person-first language and proper terminology. Be polite and correct and support them. Talk about the strengths and abilities of the person whenever possible. And finally, be respectful of cultural backgrounds. For instance, in Native communities, it's also important to acknowledge the person as well as their clan. Think about this. Are you a hemorrhoid, or do you suffer from hemorrhoids? There's a big difference. For more information on person-first language and correct terminology on disabilities, the following websites are helpful. Thank you so much for participating in this tutorial on person-first language. Here at MOFAS, it is our hope that this information has helped you understand what person-first language is, why it's important, and that it motivates you to utilize person-first language in your respective professions.